Module 5, and you'll find that on page 109. So make sure you're on page 109 with Miss Jennifer. And we're going to go ahead and get started. We're continuing with multiplication today, but we're also using something called expanded form. Now, this is one of my favorite ways to work with a number. I love to break the number apart and see each value. So this is something that I enjoy doing. You're also going to hear me say the word partial products today. And we're going to look at that vocabulary on the next page. But I do want you to make sure that you understand what a partial product is. So let's look at Spark Your Learning. A community theater seats 123 people. A new play will run 4 shows. All of the seats are sold for all of the shows. How many tickets were sold? So let's think about with expanded form. But first, let's create an equation. So we know that there are 123 people. And it'll hold 123 people. And there's a play, and it'll run 4 shows. So we're going to say times 4. And of course, n is our unknown number. So we can also rewrite that. We could say 4 times 123 equals n. But if you remember from Module 4, the commutative property of multiplication, all we did there was we flipped the factors around. And if you flip the factors around, you're not changing the answer. You're just making it so that it's easier for you to multiply. So whichever way it works for you in the equation is fine, but this is the commutative property of multiplication. So I think what we'll do today is let's use base 10 blocks to show our work. So we know, and I'm going to use this equation. I kind of like to use equations that start with whatever I'm multiplying by. So let's go with 4 times 123. Well, I'm going to break my number down. I'm going to look at the value. So I have a 1 in the hundreds, so I'm going to draw 100, one group of 100. I have 2 tens, so I'm going to draw 2 tens, and I have 3 ones. Now I know they're running 4 shows, so I have to show 4 of these, so I'm going to draw it 4 times. So just to make sure, I'm going to start in my hundreds. So I have 4 groups of 100 now. And then I'm going to go to my tens. There's 2 tens with each group. And then there's 3 ones with each group. Okay? So now we need to figure out how many are sold. So let's look at our hundreds. We have 4 groups of 100, so the value of that would be a 4. So we're going to put a 4 in the hundred spot. And let's count our tens. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we've got 8. We may have to change that, but let's look at our ones. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now let's stop right there for just a second. So we have 12 ones, and if we remember from 3rd grade, we can't have 12 ones. So we're going to make a group of 10. We have to make that group of 10 and move it over to the 10 spot. So we have to make a group of 10 and move it over to the 10 spot. And we're going to mark those out. We don't need those anymore. So now we've got 2 ones. And now let's go back and count our tens again. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have to change this from an 8 to a 9. So they had 492 tickets sold for 4 shows. 492 tickets for 4 shows. What's another way that you could solve this problem? We could use the area model. We can draw out a rectangle and use the area model, and we could also write 123 using expanded form. And that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to flip over to page 110. And we're going to work on that together as a group. So page 110. Okay, let's look at build understanding. Actually, you know what? Let's go down and let's look at our vocabulary first. Connect to vocabulary. So circle that box and let's talk about partial product. A partial product is a product that results when the ones, tens, hundreds, and so on are multiplied separately. The partial products are then added together to find the whole product. So a quick, easy way to think about that is you're multiplying each part of the number separately. So each part of the number separately. Now, let's go back up and let's look at number 1. To build the sets for the play, the stage crew manager buys 3 boxes of nails with 115 nails in each box. How many nails does he buy? So how can we write, first let's look at the bigger number, 115. How can we write that in expanded form? We have one group of 100, so that would be 100 plus 110 plus 5 ones. So this is our expanded form. Now let's look at B. How can we use the distributive property to find the number of nails? Well, we know we're multiplying by 3 because he had 3 boxes. So we're going to multiply each of these numbers by 3. This is the distributive property. So we can say 3 times 100, 3 times 10, and 3 times 5. And if we multiply each of these equations, we're looking at, so whatever the answer is for 3 times 100, we would call that a partial product. Whatever the answer is for 3 times 10, that's another partial product. Partial, that means not whole. You're only looking at one part. So now we're going to draw an area model using our expanded form to help you find the product. So again, with an area model, remember when you see area model, you're using a rectangle. So we're going to draw out a rectangle. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we know we're multiplying all of these numbers by 3. So 3 is going to go on the left side of our model. So first let's look at the first product we have, or the equation we have. We have 100. So 100 is going to be the bigger rectangle. Then we have 10. And then we have 5. So we want to represent those numbers in our model, showing which number is larger. So you can see from our model that 100 is the larger number. Now we're going to write those into equations. We're going to say 3 times 100, and we know that, look in that basic fact, 3 times 1 is 3, and we add 2 zeros. Then we're going to say 3 times 10, again, basic fact, 3 times 1 is 3, add a 0 to get 30, and then we're going to say 3 times 5, and that's 15. So we had all of our partial products. These are your partial products that we just talked about in the vocabulary. Now we have to use each of these partial products to find the product of 3 times 115. So that's what you're going to be doing in part C. So I'm going to move my screen up and it's going to take the answers away. But remember our answers, and I'll go back and rewrite them in the equations. So let's look at part C. Alright, so I'll go back and quickly write our equations just so we have them again. Alright, now we're going to use these partial products here that we came up with earlier, and we're going to add them all back together to see what the product of 3 times 115 would be. So we're going to say 300 plus 30 plus 15. Now, if you can't add horizontally, you can always come back over and you can rewrite it vertically. But I do recommend that you're very careful with how you write your numbers here. You want to line them up. So we have 300, and then here we only have a 10 and a 1. So we're going to make sure we line those up, and then we have 15. And you would add those together. So we get an answer of 345. So that tells me, going back to our original problem, that 3 boxes of nails with 115 nails in each box, he buys a total of 345 nails. 345 nails. All right, let's do that another way on page 111. So let's go to page 111 and try that another way. This is probably one of my favorite ways to do multiplication. If I have to break down the number, I like using expanded form. Excuse me. All right, let's look at Step It Out. The production assistant prints 525 copies of the program for the play. Each program uses 4 sheets of paper. How many sheets of paper will be used? Find 4 times 525. Use expanded form. All right, so let's just break it down step by step. For A, write 525 in expanded form. So if we have 5 groups of 100, the value of that would be 500. 2 groups of 10 would be 20. And 5 ones would be 5 ones. All right, now let's break it even further down and let's use the distributive property. So when we use the distributive property, we're multiplying all of these numbers by 4. So we're going to say 4 times 500, 4 times 20, and 4 times 5. All right, multiply to find each partial product. Use the grid to record the partial product, starting with the greatest place, then add to the whole product. So let's start it again. So we're just going to write our equations again here. And we're going to use the grid to kind of help us line up our answers. So 4 times 500. Let's look at the basic fact. 4 times 5, we know that that's 20. And we're going to add 2 zeros. So our answer is 2,000. So there's partial product. So then we're going to say 4 times 2 is 8, and we're going to add a 0 to get 80. And then our basic fact here is 4 times 5. The answer is 20. Now we're going to use our grid. So we've got 3 partial products. So we're going to take all 3 of those partial products and we're going to add them together to get our whole product. Okay, so 0 all the way down is 0. 0 plus 8 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry our 1. So our answer is 2,100 sheets of paper will be used.